What's up, FA Nation? It is Tuesday, the day after Monday Night Football, and it's time for another edition of a Waiver Wire live stream. Hi, Jon Impemba. What's going on?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week of waiver pickups, hitting more of the buys, obviously some injuries that happened, and some guys that are kind of lower owned across fantasy formats that are coming off some good weeks. So it'd be nice to dive in there and recommend some people for everyone to pick up.
I've got a lot of ideas, but everybody should know there's a great place to reference if you aren't able to watch the entire stream. Dan Malin has an article that comes out every Tuesday morning on Fantasy Alarm. He goes through all the major waiver wire targets and about what you should bid. He does it in percentages of your fab. So if it's $1,000 budget, $100 budget, $200 budget, easy to figure out. You can always go there. We're going to go over those as well as a couple others that I would like to target that weren't mentioned, and I'm sure Jon has a few as well. Quickly, let's recap last night and get the pain over with.
Yeah.
We'll start with Dallas.
Okay, I'll let you kind of vent there, but
it's been rough, but no, that was horrible. I feel that a lot of people are going to be really hard on Andy Dalton, and I think we should give him a little bit of a break based on what happened. Not saying go roster Andy Dalton, but let's calm it down. Ezekiel Elliott, gruff. We just turned over the ball as much as possible. The O-line's depleted. The defense stinks. It's depressing. I'm a Cowboys fan. I think we're still going to win the NFC East. No, Andy Dalton is not Dak Prescott. Yes, Dak Prescott deserves his money, and
we lose Jen there. I think we might have lost Jen there. But following up on basically what she was saying, I don't think Andy Dalton is the savior there for the Cowboys. But I think in terms of, if you're looking to stream quarterbacks, he still has the talented offense that is around him. So I like Dalton there, if you have to, no other option. But you're right, Jen. Zeke fumbling the football like that, you really can't afford those type of turnovers and the situations that they were in. Especially how bad your defense is, you're going to turn the ball over and then put more stress on them. It's tough to go.
I just can't. But on the other side of the ball, it was pretty fun to see Kyler Murray really have some fun after he got through his nerves at the beginning. What I found really interesting is that they were able to use a lot of different parts of their game. They weren't just playing the same old game plan. We saw Christian Kirk, 2 great receptions for touchdowns, and we saw Kenyon Drake. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. Kenyon Drake either really won you a matchup or lost you a matchup yesterday. We saw both of those guys be functional, and Indy Isabella looked like a threat. I thought it was fun to see Arizona starting to grow.
Yeah, and the funny thing with in terms of fantasy points is the fact that Kyler Murray only completed 9 passes last night, but he was still able because he's getting it done on the ground now. He has more rushing touchdowns this year than he already had last year. He's closing in on the number of rushing yards he had last year already this year. And while he was able to connect with Hopkins on some deep plays, especially that I think a 60-yarder, and then he had the 2 with Christian Kirk. Fantasy-wise. It was surprising to see him not have as big of a day throwing the football against the Dallas defense. They did struggle, with the completion percentage there, but they were able to get it done overall.
And speaking of running the ball more, Kansas City. I don't think anybody expected this, but when Andy Reid was interviewed after the game, he said, look, we're better when we're a balanced team, and we didn't run the ball. I think they only ran it 11 times when they faced Vegas, and they lost, and they learned from that. And this is one of the things that I think makes Andy Reid such a brilliant mind. The fact that they're adding in Le'Veon Bell now, it's just disgusting. They're going to be too good. It was wonderful to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that some of that did have to do with the rain. I'm sure that helped. It's better to keep the ball, not in the air when it's raining. But even still, Mahomes was accurate. And it was fun to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire bust out. So what do you think now about with the value of Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell and all this talk we're talking about?
Yeah, so I still don't think Edwards-Helaire is a great option in the red zone area. He struggles in the short yardage, and I feel like that's where Le'Veon Bell is going to be brought in and utilized. So I think between the 20s, you're going to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire still involved in the passing game. He's still going to run the football there. But when they get in that sort of, maybe within the 10-yard line or so, outside of being a change of pace back, I think that's the role Le'Veon Bell is going to fulfill. He's obviously an elite pass catching option as well. So, while it's great to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire put that type of game together, something a lot of owners were hoping to see more of, I think it's going to be a one-off situation here. Maybe another game he can still take forward because Bell needs to get worked into the offense this week of practice and whatnot. So, but I think slowly we're going to see, Bell play more obviously than Darrell Williams has been playing, right? So I think that's just going to naturally cut in to the snaps there for CEH.
But to your point, I mean, they actually did exactly that. They put Darrell Williams in to do the end zone carry when Clyde Edwards had been running the whole game. So I think it's pretty clear that's what they're going to do with Lev Bell, except Lev Bell's an even more talented back than Darrell Williams. So we'll see more of Lev Bell because why not? And on the other side, any concern about the Buffalo Bills? They've dropped 2 in a row now.
I don't really think I'm overly concerned. I think obviously a lot of people were surprised to see them lose to the Titans after everything the Titans were going through last week. This week, not so much. I was actually surprised to see that the Chiefs ranked 5th in DVOA rating against the pass this year. I don't think of the Chiefs of actually having like a strong pass defense, but they were able to bottle up Josh Allen a little bit there. The offense wasn't fully able to get going. John Brown, I don't know how healthy he is. He was active, but he only had the 4 targets, no catches there. So if you're really focusing in on keeping Josh Allen in the pocket, not letting him run, and the only real receiving threat they have is Stephon Diggs, who's still able to find the end zone in that game. It definitely makes their offense a little bit more one-dimensional. They need to get that running game going. Singletary and Moss need to get it up there to really kind of allow defenses to have to figure out which way they're going to go, because if they are going to sit back there and make Josh Allen throw the football, well, maybe we'll see some regression in that regards.
So because this is a waiver wired episode, I want to ask what your feeling is about Demarcus Robinson. Is this someone we should be targeting?
So this is somebody that I recommended going into this week because a lot of people look at the injury to Sammy Watkins and they think, ooh, Mecole Hardman, because he's sort of the shiny toy. He's a fast downfield threat, a home run hitter. But if you look at sort of the way the offense is structured with the Chiefs, Demarcus Robinson is sort of the handcuff, we'll say, to Sammy Watkins, while Mecole Hardman is the handcuff to Tyreek Hill. So, while it would make sense, I guess, in terms of a skill-wise, and a lot of people would think that Hardman would be the guy that see the increase. Last week, it was Robinson that saw the most snaps of the two once Sammy Watkins went out. So I wasn't surprised to see Robinson actually step up in this situation and get the snaps over them. I was surprised to see him be the leading receiver in this game. I didn't think that was going to happen for the Chiefs, but it's not shocking to me to see him get that work. Now, do I think he is worthy of adding to your roster? Sure, but I would use him as I would have used Sammy Watkins. Like, he's not someone I'm now just throwing into my starting lineup. He's a flex play if I need to. He's a bye-week replacement if I need to. Because once Sammy's back from his hammy, however long that takes, he's going to go back to not being worth it. So I wouldn't overspend on him. If you're in a bind, you need a guy, sure, because he is going to be that starting outside receiver.
Demarcus Robinson was in the deep cuts video as well last week because I thought you probably could get him without having to spend much budget. I think that's probably still the case unless you're in a really deep league. Actually, lots of wide receivers to talk about. We'll just stick with the position. Yeah. Doesn't seem to be a fluke. Travis Fulgham, and now we've got no Zach Ertz. Now we've got an injured Miles Sanders. How much money, if he's still out there, should we be spending on Travis Fulgham?
Yeah, I mean, this is probably going to be the last opportunity to grab him. I would still maybe only spend 10 to 15% of my budget because Deshaun Jackson is expected to be active this week. So while you're right, no, they're losing a pass-catching option, Zach Ertz, who had a lot of targets again in that game before going down. What kind of role does Fulgham play with D-Jax on the field now? And is Deshaun Jackson going to be the default number one option on that team? When Alshon Jeffrey eventually comes back, how does he fit in now with Fulgham? They still have Ward. So there's a lot of bodies that are still moving in and out of that Eagles offense. And while Fulgham has certainly proven himself worthy of maintaining sort of a role in that rotation, I think as more established guys enter the lineup, he may see a dip down.
I think that's possible, but I think he's one of the more trusty targets that you can still get if he's available. I mean, they're just decimated. Yeah. They need somebody, and clearly...
And it's also worth noting that, even if Deshaun Jackson comes back for this week, how long? Does he get hurt again by halftime and he's out again? So Fulgham's a guy that I would look to grab. Again, I don't like the overinvestment, though, on a guy whose role I'm just not totally sure of.
The other thing I'm concerned about with Deshaun Jackson is he didn't look so good before he left this season. So I'm kind of digging on Travis Fulgham. I have him in a couple leagues.
The Eagles haven't looked very good. So
no, they haven't. They have the Cowboys. So who am I to talk? Right. I don't think Christian Kirk is still out there in many leagues. But if he is, Christian Kirk is an ad. Obviously, it can't always just be DeAndre Hopkins. Larry Fitz is, Fitz, fine. But Christian Kirk's the number 2. But what about Andy Isabella?
So I like Andy Isabella, but it has to be with a guy like Kirk hurt or somebody in that offense hurt because he's just not seeing enough of the snap counts. And I'm looking right now, ESPN leagues, I'm seeing that Christian Kirk is under 50% owned. I imagine it's probably a similar case over for those who play in Yahoo leagues as well. So, if Kirk's out there, I would definitely go ahead and give him a grab. I kind of likened him last night. If you're taking a DeAndre Hopkins offense, Christian Kirk playing the Will Fuller role, right? He's a downfield deep threat. He can catch the long ball while the defense is focused on doubling Hopkins, and therefore he gets a lot of one-on-one coverage where he has a quarterback like Kyler Murray that can throw downfield like Watson had with Fuller. So I think, while Kirk I don't think is going to give you, 20 fantasy points every single week, obviously, but I think he's going to get a handful of targets each week and shots downfield that he can connect on. So I'm looking at Yahoo now. He's 41% owned in Yahoo leagues as well. So, yeah, if you're in like a 12-team league, Christian Kirk could certainly be floating out there.
And AJ Green, I couldn't believe it, was dropped in a 14-team league I played in. And you better believe that somebody should go be picking up AJ Green, especially with all these bye weeks.
Yeah, so obviously he had the 0 points against Baltimore, but that was a really tough game, and he was injured a little bit, and maybe he was tapped out. We saw everybody, the sideline video of him mouthing the words like, "Why don't you just trade me?" Probably just being upset that he's not being used, or it's clear that T. Higgins has hopped him, who, he's the cover image of our live stream today. I think he's the number 1 ad this week for those who are available. But, he was getting a decent target share earlier on in this season, and really he's only had one game where the targets haven't been there. He's seen at least 5 and everything but 1, and he comes back with 11 in this game against Indy. And they have a decent schedule coming up as well on the horizon. Cleveland, Tennessee, Pittsburgh will be tough, but Washington, the Giants, Miami, Dallas, that's a really favorable schedule. I know, Jen, I'm sorry. Very favorable schedule for the Bengals coming up. So if Green can stay healthy, and he's going to stay on the field and get that type of targets, I still think that there's some value. Now, you're not getting the AJ Green of 2 years ago, but you could get a guy that could help you out in leagues if you're hurting at wide receiver.
Yeah, and if you're scooping him up from the waiver wire, then you are getting good value. It's not like you're paying 3rd, 4th round prices or anything silly. Like that's value at this point in the season when you need to pace together from bye weeks and injuries. But now we have to talk about, the star in Cincinnati finally had the big breakout game. What is it, 125 yards? Something ridiculous like that. T. Higgins. Now, I looked at his matchup for this week. It's not as good. So I don't think you can immediately expect him. I think Tyler Boyd might have the bigger game this week, but it's time to add T. Higgins if he's still available. It kind of amazes me sometimes that some of these guys are still available in leagues. I forget because I play with a lot of sharks, people out there. So if T. Higgins is available, is there any way you don't add him?
No, like I said, I think for me, he's my number 1 wide receiver ad this week. It is Cleveland, so I guess it'll depend on where Denzel Ward is covering this week, if it's going to be Higgins or Boyd, because if it is Boyd, then I think Higgins is still going to be have his opportunity to have success this week. We saw Pittsburgh where Claypool and James Washington last week were able to put up numbers while they shut down Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think is just hurt at this point and just trying to play through something. But, Cleveland's pass defense hasn't been as great. They have a good pass rush, good front 7, but, we'll have to see where Ward's assignment ends up being because Higgins could possibly still thrive there.
So let's talk about Tim Patrick. Is Tim Patrick really the real deal now? I feel like, we're big in on Jerry Jeudy. I still love Jerry Jeudy, but should we actually be focusing just as much attention on Tim Patrick?
Again, he's a player that's seen his usage increase over the last couple of weeks. I think you have to at least take a dart throw on him at this point. It's hard to ignore back-to-back 100-yard games. It's hard to ignore 15 targets over the last 2 games. Again, this could be a tough week for them. Again, Kansas City, as I mentioned earlier in this stream, they have a really strong DVOA number against the pass. But after that, it opens up for them a little bit. They have Atlanta, Miami, Carolina, Buffalo, teams that you can throw on this year. So, yeah, I think Tim Patrick's worth an ad there. I think Judy is still, learning some things, being a rookie and whatnot. And I think at times he may disappear from games. The game script as well could go away from him. But, Patrick seems to be making some big plays and has looked solid.
Okay. Is it time to admit that the number 2 receiver in Chicago is not Anthony Miller? It's Darnell Mooney. It seems like since Foles took over, he's the new favorite target. And I know a lot of us thought Anthony Miller was the guy, and we got him. We thought it was going to be fine, but it hasn't worked out very well. If we're in a really deep league, what are your feelings about maybe trying Darnell Mooney?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in like a 14-team league, I think he's someone that's worthy of adding. Again, he's seeing about 5 targets a game, so it's hard to kind of ignore that type of target share. I still think he's probably third in line behind Jimmy Graham. If we're looking at actual total targets in the offense, Allen Robinson obviously gets 1 billion.
Obviously.
I think Graham is going to be number 2 most likely, and then Mooney's inching his way up there as a number 3 guy. I don't know what happened to Anthony Miller. The way he ended last year, a lot of people have them as sort of a sleeper list this year, or someone that could be finally breaking out. I don't think it's a talent thing. I don't know. I think he's just getting lost in the way they're running that offense right now, and it's just not conducive to him being successful. So, yeah, Mooney, if he's out there, which he should be, if you're in a deep league, yeah, I would throw $1 or 2 on him.
He should be. All right, let's go over to the running back position. It's very possible Joe Mixon won't play this week. He left the game with a foot injury. Throughout the season, we've been like, what's up with Gio Bernard? There were games that Gio Bernard was out snapping Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
And is it really Gio time now?
I mean, so he hurt his foot, but he was able to still come back in that game. So I guess we're going to have to see exactly how practice goes this week for Mixon. It is Cleveland. Again, Cleveland it has a decent little run defense there. I would definitely put a bid in on Gio as a handcuff if you haven't already, because if this ends up being a lingering problem there for Mixon, then Bernard's going to have some value. But until, Mixon's actually out, I think Bernard's overall upside is certainly going to be limited.
Philip Lindsay had a great game on Sunday.
Yes, he did. Finally. We finally getting some rewards for that,
Finally, if he's still out there with all this drama with Melvin Gordon, I don't see how you don't go ahead and add Philip Lindsay. Even if he's not playing next week because Melvin Gordon's back, there's got to be opportunity coming up. But he played so well, you got to wonder, is this going to go back to being a split and kind of diminish both of their values?
I mean, listen, it was supposed to be a timeshare to begin the year. It started off as a timeshare in game 1, but then Lindsay got the turf toe, came out, and Gordon's taken the reins ever since. But yeah, then Gordon gets the DUI, then he gets the strep throat seemingly out of nowhere. The team has said they're not going to discipline him for the DUI. I don't know why that would be the case. Like, why wouldn't you, suspend the guy for a game? Or maybe this was his suspension, but they hit it with a fake injury. Who knows? We didn't like the Gordon going to Denver because Lindsay was a back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher. So I don't see how they go away from Lindsay now once Gordon comes back after he runs for 100 yards. So I think both guys are going to see a diminished role. I think Gordon's going to be used more in the passing downs because he is a better pass blocker. But in terms of early down rotation, I think they could end up splitting it.
Yeah, and Philip Lindsay definitely worth an ad if he's been dropped in your leagues.
Yep.
So some of you will be without Miles Sanders this week. We're hopeful it's only a 1 to 2 week loss, but there are a few people you can look at. Obviously, the next person in line directly is Boston Scott. How comfortable? We saw Boston Scott sub for Miles Sanders the first week. It was pretty much a disaster. Didn't look good. There was no chance Miles Sanders is going to lose his job to Boston Scott. But this second time around, do you think Boston Scott might be worth a little bit of your fab?
I mean, I don't know.
I know, that's how I feel.
He only had 2 carries. Again, this wasn't a game where they needed to run the football much anyways, but he only had 2 carries in that game. Sanders led the team with 9, but then he only had 4 targets, and pass catching is supposed to be Scott's primary fantasy value. So I mean, yes, he's going to be a popular guy to add off the waivers. Corey Clement didn't even get a target. A carry. I'm not even sure if he was even active for that game. I should have gone and looked first. But he's probably going to be someone that's going to be involved with those two as the two primary running backs. But it's not a great situation. The offensive line in Philadelphia is just brutal right now. If you have Sanders and you have no other option, sure, Scott's the guy. But Scott's not somebody I'm running out right away to go spend fab budget on.
Someone that I found myself getting in a few leagues is actually J.D. McKissic. And after this week, I feel even more confident about that early buy. I know we all wanted it to be Antonio Gibson, but the fact is McKissic has had in 3 straight games, he's had 6 catches. He is just as targeted as Antonio Gibson, and I think he could be just as valuable. What are your thoughts on McKissic?
Yeah, I added McKissic a couple weeks ago in a league.
Me too.
Because I saw that the passing targets were still continuing to go his way. And now here we are, 3 weeks in a row, he has at least 6 catches. Last week against the Giants, he even had 8 carries, which is nice. Second time this year, he's had 8 carries. I agree with you. I don't know why Antonio Gibson isn't being utilized more. He has the same skill set in terms of pass catching ability in theory, and he should be a better runner. But yeah, they're sort of splitting the timeshare. We know Kyle Allen loves to dump down to the running back position, and Washington is not good enough to ever sort of run away with the game, in my opinion. So it's going to leave them opportunities where they're going to need to keep McKissic on the field and not really just ground the clock out with Gibson here. Plus, I love the Washington schedule that's coming up. Dallas this week, they have their bye. Giants, Detroit, Cincinnati, Dallas again. I mean, that's like 5 straight games against some of the worst defenses in football. So yeah, if you have McKissic right now, definitely hold on to him. He's available in 25%, I think, of fantasy leagues. ESPN, it's 33% I'm looking at right now. So yeah, McKissic should be a guy that's on your radar for sure. He might even be my top running back target this week.
Yeah, I think he probably is. Mine as well, where I don't have it.
I guess I should preference. If you're in standard, which I don't know why you're still playing standard anyways, but if you're in a standard league, then obviously his value is diminished.
Yes, he hasn't gotten into the end zone yet this season. I don't think they plan to use him that way, so this is definitely a PPR league play. Now, what about I know what I wanted to talk about. Justin Jackson.
Yeah.
This is a situation where I think people may have already forgotten or had to make some moves because of bye weeks and COVID, and it's possible that he's still out there as well. He was the more featured back last time, and then he had a bye week last week, so people have forgotten. I think Justin Jackson is someone we should all go put some claims in for.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one, not only was it because he led the team in carries and snaps, when it was against the Saints before their bye, but now they're coming out of a bye against Jacksonville, who is a horrible run defense. We just saw what DeAndre Swift did to them last week. I'm looking right now. Yahoo says he's 50% owned. So if you're in a league where Justin Jackson is available, definitely go and add him this week.
And in fact, sneaky preview of the DFS video, he's also $6,100 on FanDuel. So and another person that I doubt is available, but if you're in a 10-team league or 12-team league, if DeAndre Swift is still out there, obviously.
It's probably a 10-team league. I'm looking at it right now. I think he's 80% owned in standard leagues on ESPN. So, if you're in that rare 20%, definitely add him. If you're in a 10-team league, again, good matchup here against Atlanta. So, a guy that they should go out and add it. And I kind of talked about this with Justin Fensterman on Alarm After Hours last night. Is what's the deal with all of these teams using their second round picks on these running backs like Swift, Dobbins, Akers, I'm probably even AJ Dillon, and they're not using them. They're not featuring them enough. Why use that draft capital on a guy if you're not going to use them in your offense? Obviously, Akers saw 1 snap last week. Dobbins has rarely been used at all. Swift finally getting the run in the ground game. He was obviously giving us a little bit in the passing game. He should be the lead back on this team. He should be overtaking Adrian Peterson. Peterson should be the guy to take the wear and tear off Swift, not the other way around. So I'm hoping last week was the come out party here for Swift, and you can go ahead and we expect a good workload this week against Atlanta. But the snap counts were still fairly even, around 35% for the two, him and Peterson this week. So while he was more productive, he wasn't necessarily on the field as much as more.
hopefully Matt Patricia can see this and say, hey, I've got to start looking towards my future. And, much respect to Adrian Peterson, but you got to build for the future of your team. Yeah. And DeAndre Swift has it. And I know he dropped an end zone pass in the first week and it was dramatic and whatever. Mistakes happen. The kid is learning. You got to go back out there. Jerick McKinnon, by the way, if he was dropped, it is time to go get Jerick McKinnon again, as well as potentially Jeff Wilson Jr., because we're back in the same situation. Raheem Mostert, high ankle sprain. This is the kind of thing, 3 to 4 weeks. We've seen how long it takes. It's really unfortunate. I have Mostert in a league. When he's there, he's so good.
He's so good. I know. I have him in the Alarm After Hours league and back to IR for him. I have Kevin Coleman in some leagues. He's on IR. Shanahan said it's a long shot for Coleman to be activated off IR this week, but know that he is at least coming towards his availability to be activated. So it's kind of good timing, we'll say, if Mostert's now on the IR. If next week maybe Coleman is coming back off IR, he could work his way in there. And then for deep waiver ads, if McKinnon's already added and, if Wilson's not available, because Wilson wasn't even active for this game. Jermichael Hasty actually was the guy that's active. He's not owned anywhere. He's 0.2% owned in ESPN League. So Hasty is probably a guy to throw some fab money on. Again, low expectations, but he's a warm body that could get carries. So
absolutely. And I've been stashing Kevin Coleman, so I would love it if he's back sooner than later, because he was supposed to be my backup play if any of my stars got injured, but then he got injured. So let's see what happens. Wasn't the best week for me in my leagues this week. I have to say, I think I only won like 4 of the 11 or something like that. Not good.
Yeah, I was like 3-8 myself. It wasn't great. Again, 5 weeks injuries. I kept on getting like the 5th pick in league, so I had a lot of Michael Thomas all year. I haven't been able to use him yet, and then the injuries that have all gone down again, landmines left and right. But able to get at least a couple victories. Fortunate.
Yeah, me too. I got a few, but would have liked more. All right, so let's just talk about the last position that you're probably all screaming all the time anyway, because it kind of sucks. That's just
it's not good.
There's no way around it. Dallas Goedert could be coming back, and with no Zach Ertz, we saw he had a great game, first game of the season. I had him in a league, obviously had to drop him because of injury and all these other things, but I think I might go put another bid on Dallas Goedert, try to get him back.
Yeah, I mean, if he's available, I would definitely agree with you. I'm looking right now, again, only rostered in 30% of ESPN leagues, so a lot of people did the same thing. They just cut bait. If he's activated this week, it's a short week. It's a Thursday game for them, so, if not this week, it could be next week for sure. He has to be on your radar. I mean, he's going to be one of the most highly targeted guys there. We know Wentz likes throwing to the tight end, so Goddard would be a guy to take a look at for sure.
Now, somebody that I've kind of been captivated with for a while, and I've used him in DFS, and I actually used him in a couple seasonals this week. The ones I happened to win is Darren Fells.
Yeah, I used Fells this week.
Yeah, it was really great. And the thing I like about Darren Fells, I've never understood why Akins kind of started to take over in the hierarchy with Fells, because to me, Fells has that wingspan. He was a basketball player. He's speedy. He's quick. He's a good target for Deshaun Watson. I'm kind of hoping they stick with him. And in deeper leagues, maybe Akins will be back, so that might bring him down a little bit. But even so, I kind of feel like they may stick with what's working, because they made a change with the Fells the same time they made a change with their coach, and the same time it started clicking. I might just stick with that.
Yeah, I mean, Akins, for one reason or another, has always been viewed more as a pass-catching tight end option. They really like Fells as a blocker. It's probably one of the reasons why he's not targeted as often when Akins is healthy. But Fells has still always been a really great red zone threat because, like you said, the wingspan, his ability to get up and get the football. This week, I had Darren Waller on a bye. I actually initially had picked up Irv Smith Jr. Akins got ruled out, went to the waiver wire, and picked up Fells. Irv Smith Jr. had a nice week, but he didn't have a Fells week. And Fells was a league winner this week if you were streaming between him and Burton. Those two guys really carry the tight end position.
And Trey Burton, of course, the other person, if he's still available, he has now gotten the most targets, right?
Yeah.
11 targets. And obviously Doyle and Burton both got into the end zone. But as we've said over and over again, Phillip Rivers likes his tight ends. If Trey Burton emerges as the number one, obviously no Mo Alley Cox last week. But Burton, even with Mo Alley Cox active, saw more targets.
Burton's the guy. Yeah, another 5 targets this week. He's now had at least 5 targets in the 3 weeks he's been active. Can you count on double touchdowns? You ran in one. Probably not, but again, he's a guy that, like we said, Rivers is going to go to consistently because he likes that tight end spot. And they come out with a matchup against Detroit, which is a good matchup for tight ends. So, Burton's on a bye this week. Maybe he gets dropped, pick him up, stash him, and plan ahead.
Absolutely. Okay, well, time flies when you're having fun. Sure it's does. Already 3:30, so you guys go out, make some smart waiver claims. If you have any questions, feel free to go online, fantasyalarm.com, 24/7 chat. Someone will answer your questions. Jon, any parting thoughts?
Just, be smart with your fab budget. Again, don't go be aggressive on guys that don't have secure jobs, and address your needs because we're getting into the middle of the season. Playoffs are coming quicker than you think.
Yeah, and you want to make sure you have a good playoff team available. All right, well, I think that's it for today. You guys tune in tomorrow, same time. We'll have Howard Bender and Justin Finsterman here giving you – what's the episode tomorrow? What are they doing?
Next, it's DFS preview. Wednesday's DFS preview.
DFS preview. You want to make some money? You better be here at 3 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow with Justin Finsterman and Howard Bender. And otherwise,